Hey folks, Robbie Payne from Chrome Unbox coming at you today with a full review of the Acer Chromebook 13, also known as the CB5, also known as many as Acer's first and the industry's first Chromebook with the Tegra K1 processor. For those of you who don't know what that is, the Tegra K1 is in the new NVIDIA Shield tablet. It is NVIDIA's newest mobile chip, 192 GPU cores, quick mobile processing. It's actually what's going to be housed, just came out today, what's going to be housed in the Nexus 9 tablet, blazing fast for Android for mobile applications. And so a lot of people were wondering and questioning, how's this thing going to hold up when it comes to Chrome OS? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, before we do anything else, let's take a tour of the device. It is a 13.3-inch screen, so it is a larger Chromebook. I'll bring in the Dell Chromebook 11, for instance, for you can kind of see the size there. However, weight-wise, it's about the same as most of the 11.6-inch devices. Comes in really thin and a nice matte finish here on the outside part. Doesn't really pick up too much as far as fingerprints and that kind of stuff. So feels really nice. A little bit more premium than say the Acer C720P with the white finish as well. We see kind of a unique hinge here that we're going to see as well in their newer 11-inch Chromebook. So it does kind of have that jut sticking up out of there. While we're over here on the side, we'll look USB 3.0 full-size SD card slot. It does sit flush once it's in there. Around the front, nothing. Around the other side, we have the combo microphone headphone jack, the small charging port. I'm not a huge fan of those little bitty ones. They feel like they're going to break. And then you have, not exactly a Kensington lock, but something you could actually put the thing down, but I don't know how well that would hold. If it were pinned down by that, they could probably be ripped up pretty easily. On the back, which is another thing, it's a little odd to have stuff back here, but you know, you got to fit them where you can. 3.0, another, so that's a second 3.0 USB port, full-size HDMI, so it's good to see even in a thin form factor here. And this guy is thin. Let me bring in the Acer C720P for reference for you all, and so those two kind of side by side. You can see it cuts quite a bit off of the side profile, and the C720P is really not that chunky. For me, my daily driver now is the Dell Chromebook 11, and it is not the thinnest guy around, and so this one's quite a bit thinner. So that's kind of your tour around. If you look on the bottom, all the screws are exposed, speakers on both sides, and obviously no fans on this guy. We are running that Tegra mobile processor, and so no need for any kind of fans, which keeps it dead silent, and it stays nice and cool, so that's pretty awesome. All the screws are exposed. There's probably one under here. Well, maybe not. Looks like not, so you probably get into this thing without having to take off any stickers and ruin your warranty, possibly. So I don't know what you would do in there. Usually with mobile processors and such, there's not a lot you can get around. This does have a 13.3-inch 1080p screen, which is pretty awesome. It is a matte finish, and it's impossible for me to get this on camera for you, simply because the way that the angles would show it, I couldn't actually show you exactly what I'm talking about. But for those of you who have messed with a matte display, the closest thing I can relate it to is when you get off of a cell phone call and you kind of have a little bit of oil on your cell phone and you look at the screen through that, and there's a graininess that happens to the picture. That's what matte looks like all the time to me. And so it's insanely aggravating. I'm not a huge fan. I love the fact that they're anti-glare, and that's really cool, especially for filming. It's very easy. I don't have to worry about seeing my reflection in the screen, so that's awesome. I can't get past the matte display. For some of you, that's not going to bother you at all. And so that's pretty cool. If it doesn't bother you, you can kind of take advantage of that. This one, I believe, does have, let me check real quick for you. Just to be sure I'm telling you the right thing. I've got quite a few Chromebooks here, so I want to be sure I'm saying the right thing before I make some observations about its performance. I believe this one does have 4 gigs of RAM, but I want to make sure. Yes, okay. So yeah, this is 4 gigs of RAM. Like I said, I got a few Chromebooks, and I don't want to get mixed up. Anyway, another point on the 1080p screen, as I was just looking at that, it was a little bit difficult to read that text because this thing isn't scaling yet. However, in the some of the beta builds of Chrome OS, there finally is some scaling, so you could do a 1.2, 1.4 scale, not lose the sharpness of the display, but scale everything up in the UI, and it looks like it's going to work really well. For me, again, I work from these, and so I can't go over to beta very often. I've had a couple issues and it's messed with my workflow. And so unfortunately, work comes first for me right now. So maybe one day if I get to do this for a living, I can run around on beta and dev channels and get to play with all that stuff full time. But for right now, I cannot do that. A couple other things about the hardware on this device. Again, the sharp screen, if it's scaled a little bit, it's going to be fantastic. So seeing 1080p screens start to eke their way in, you know, they got the Toshiba Chromebook 2. Hopefully I'll get my hands on that soon. These 1080p screens are so much nicer on the eyes. Everything's sharp and crisp and it looks great, especially across a 13.3 inch screen. Hopefully they don't make the mistake of trying to cram that into an 11.6 inch. Granted, with the scaling, we could actually have something worthwhile. So 11.6 inch screen with a 1080p resolution, scaled up a little bit would actually be really, really sweet. Anyway, bezels are relatively good. The whole thing is made out of that soft touch plastic, so you really don't get fingerprints anywhere around the screen and that kind of stuff when you're lifting the lid. Trackpad is nice and large. I have decently sized hands, can pretty much just palm a basketball, so it gives you an idea how big my hands are. And all 5 fingers fit straight across that thing. It's nice and wide. The surface is not textured at all. Almost has a glassy type feel to it. The click is nice and silent. It's just a good solid feeling trackpad. It performed really, really well. Keyboard travel is really good. Keys are evenly spaced. Plenty of padding here for your hands. The overall outside part of this thing, I'm really, really a big fan of. I enjoy it. I like the slender form factor. I like the 1080p screen. I'm not a fan of that matte display. And the speakers, like any other Chromebook, are average at best. But you know, it's got your array of ports you're looking for. It's got all the input methods you would want and it feels really great. So it's checking all those boxes. No one's surprised by a mediocre screen anymore on a Chromebook. Hopefully, things like the Toshiba Chromebook are going to start changing some of those perceptions about what we can and cannot get in a Chromebook. But until that point, everybody kind of sees these kind of bland screens as just a normal thing. I've got the brightness turned up full right now, and that's all you get. And so it is not impressive. So don't think just because it's a 1080p screen, you're getting something extra. The colors, the reproduction of the colors, the viewing angles wash out and polarize just like they do on the C720. So nothing's different here. Side-by-side viewing angles are okay. You lose quite a bit of brightness. So don't expect the world there. You just get it a much sharper. And again, once it bleeds down into stable, we have scaling and Chrome OS on stable, then we'll be all good. A couple things to note though. As much as I like the hardware, I'm not a fan of the interior hardware. So the exterior stuff's pretty good. Again, the screen's iffy. The internal hardware is where this guy sets itself apart, having the Tegra K1 ding, ding, inside. And I was really, really rooting for this because I like ARM processors. I like the idea of fanless design. I like mobile stuff. I really enjoy all that stuff. And so I'm rooting for an ARM processor that can actually bear the weight of anything somewhere even just similar to what Intel's processors are doing. And unfortunately, in this scenario, now on an Android tablet, completely different story. But in a Chromebook right now, it is just absolutely not up to the task. And one of the problems in even showing you some of this is a lot of the things that I would run normally to display these things won't run on this. So some of the simple games like, you know, I've got Quake, Web Quake in, Skid Racer, these things won't run. Skid Racer I haven't been able to get to run in anything for a while. Murder Files, for instance, you know, doesn't run well. I'll open up Cut the Rope. I do that on quite a few reviews. So for those of you who follow along, you'll have something to reference it to. So let's go ahead and click play. And ideally, this thing should kill it on games, right? I mean, we shouldn't have any problems. We have 192 GPU cores rocking here. And you're already starting to see, if you're paying attention, frame drops in the candy piece. And for cheaper Chromebooks, ones that don't have crazy processors in it, that wouldn't surprise me that much. But there's frame rate drops in this, and I don't know if you can see it on camera. It's not terrible. It's playable. So, you know, hear me when I say that. It's not terrible. It is playable. Same thing goes with Angry Birds. If we load it up, frame rate drops all over the place, and I don't. Who knows? It could have changed since I messed with this. Run? Nope. And for reference, WebQuake runs perfectly smooth. Oh, kind of. Oh, crashed. WebQuake runs perfectly smooth, 60 frames per second. Everything's awesome on any of the Intel chips, and so I don't have a ton of stuff to be able to show you because a lot of stuff won't run on ARM processors, and so that kind of takes me back to the whole it's really not that impressive if a lot of the stuff you want to run doesn't work, especially with some of the Intel processors that are coming. For those of you who saw my review on the Asus C300, running a Bay Trail processor, I'm not even that impressed with it. But, when we run Octane on this, we actually get a lower score than we would on Bay Trail. Bay Trail is really not even not that impressive. And so we're getting something even less than that. Um, you know, Once a site renders in, it actually loads up and does okay. And you start to see things choke a little bit. Let's go to YouTube. Got some of these standard fare things. Let's open up Google Plus. A few tabs running. Now, multitasking is not going to be a problem. You shouldn't see anything happen across running multiple tabs at once. What you're really going to run into is just the sheer processing speed. So we see it taking a little while to render these things, especially when it's doing it at the same time. And go. Pretty much failing the Google Plus test here. And so when I look at that, I know Google Plus is heavy. I know it's hard to navigate. I get it. I do. But it should be able to get around it a little bit. And so just there, look at there. There's a story about the new HP Chromebook 14. A redefined style on a device that I really enjoyed from last year, but it's going to be running this processor. And so I'm automatically not happy and not even considering getting that device. So um, I'm just going to put it bluntly. I'm pretty disappointed in the processing power of this device. I wish that it lived up a little bit more to the hype, and unfortunately, it doesn't. And I read quite a few reviews before I got my hands on mine, so I kind of knew what I was expecting. But there was still part of me that was rooting for it. And I actually attempted to work from this device, and within a couple hours, was so frustrated by its slowness, I had to move back to one of my other Chromebooks. And so I'm still messing with the Haswell Celeron processors. It's just kind of where I'm at right now. Um, they still get great battery life, and performance is unmatched in Chromebooks right now. So for me, I think until we start seeing Broadwell processors come out, some form of that, I know that's a massive class, just like Haswell encompassed many, many processors. Some sort of Broadwell processor in Chromebooks. Hopefully, we'll see a fanless, powerful Intel chip for this next generation. Maybe in the holidays, probably early 2015, before we start seeing those. But right now, for me, we've been in a performance lull because everybody wants to either use Bay Trail or this Tegra processor now all of a sudden, and none of them really are up to snuff if you're going to do more than just basic web browsing. If you're doing just basic web browsing, for most part, you're fine. But again, Google Plus to me is basic web browsing, and it can't barely handle that. Much less you start opening up Twitter and Facebook and these things have just a lot of stuff going on. You need sheer brute force processing power, and unfortunately, right now, as far as the way that Chrome OS is written and runs, it does not. Maybe it's not taking full advantage of the K1. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that performance is not great. It is very mediocre. So if you're looking for this thing to come along and just smoke stuff, this is not the machine for you. And so if you're looking for raw performance, I'm still going to tell you to go towards a Haswell Celeron. So you're looking at the Acer C720p, looking at the Dell Chromebook 11, which I'm going to do a review on as well. You're looking at the HP 14, last year's model. Any of those devices are going to give you much better performance than what this is, unfortunately, right now. They are going to come with fans, and they are going to come with the crazy battery life this thing comes with. I will say that. The battery on this thing's insane. You get 11 or 12 hours, and that's legit. That's of use out of the thing. Unfortunately, I couldn't stand to use it for that long to really actually get a test on it. It was so infuriating that it was so slow in so many things. And so that was a little bit of a bummer. And granted, if you go to the human skeleton thing that NVIDIA pushes you to, it does run that pretty well. But how many things actually are running in WebGL right now on the internet? Not many, and not many are going to be for a long, long time. There's no point in it. For most websites, there's no point in running WebGL. That's for 3D graphics, and so I'm just not sure what the play is here with the K1. It's not fast enough for day-to-day use in my book, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree with that. Feel free to kind of post whatever you think in the comments. If you own one of these and you love it, post it in the comments. If you own one, you hate it, post it in the comments. Whatever the case, um, post those things down there. I'll try to get back to those as much as I can. And for those of you who have commented and haven't heard back from me in a little while, the last few weeks, about a month or so, I've just been so swamped with work. I've not been able to get back to a lot of things right now. So I don't really want that to slow down. That's how I make my living. But I would like to see a little more space to do more stuff with the channel. And so hopefully that will come to fruition. Until then, please give it a thumbs up if you like the video, if you want to see more stuff like this. Subscribe to the channel. More subscribers means more chances that somebody will finally send me a Chromebook that I don't have to pay for out of my pocket and try to get returned or sold. That would be great. It would be more stuff for the channel, more stuff for you guys to see, more stuff for me to get my hands on and tell you about it so you can make an informed decision before you buy something. Until next time, guys, hang in there. Keep it locked to the channel. There'll be more stuff coming. We're coming up on the holidays. Surely there's going to be some more Chromebooks, more reviews coming. Toshiba Chromebook, Dell Chromebook, all kinds of stuff coming down the pipe. So until next time, guys, have a good one.